Mansur Hasib, I would like to ask you, since you are a doctor of cybersecurity, how can we prepare to be great guests on a podcast?
Well, as you probably remember, when we learned about evaluations, you always have prepared material ready to go. So to go on a podcast, you know they're going to ask you about a few things, have some solid answers ready to go, prepared, rehearsed, and everything. This is also true for table topics. You have to have those things in your hip pocket all the time. So when you go on the podcast, it doesn't matter what they ask you, because as good Toastmasters, we always know how to pivot to what we want to talk about. So regardless of what they ask you, you somehow figure out a way to pivot to all the good prepared responses that you have in your hip pocket. For example, one of the ones that I have always ready to go is this thing about bias. You see, if I just stare blank like that, everybody's biases are kicking in. They're in overdrive. And the only way for me to break that bias is to insert some other thoughts into their brains that will replace that bias that I've just allowed to flow in. And I can do that by smiling, saying a few things, and all of that. And that's how you prepare for a podcast. You've got to have those beautiful answers ready to go. And they usually should be about things that you believe in, things that are important to you. For example, another pat thing that I have is always focusing on things that I control. So you will often hear me say that answer, give that answer, regardless of what the question was. You somehow figure out a way to tie it to that. Or, for example, my voice acting. I always bring that in also. People talk, the other day asked me about colors. I said, I'm going to talk about my colorful life, and I went into talking about voice acting. So you see, that's how you do it. Thank you, Angelina, for that question.
I want to call on Miss Aisha Berry. I would like for her to share with us some tips to prepare for an overnight stay in the hospital.
Okay, some tips is that, make sure that you have your toiletries. Leave your medications. Well, if you happen to bring your medications in so the doctor can evaluate, make sure that they are taken home unless it's something very specific. Say if someone has myasthenia gravis, there are certain medications that they have to take, and the pharmacy may not have it readily available. So therefore, they have to take it on a timely basis. So that's very important. Also, if you do have a canteen, make sure you bring that too, because sometimes the nurses and other staff members may stress you out. So you may have to take a swig or two, but also you can request a IV bag of some Hennessy or some sort of wine just to calm you down, because it does get a little hectic. Also, make sure you bring your lotion and toothbrush, because the toiletries there at the hospital are very, very bad. And if someone can bring you some food 3 times a day, that's very good too, because the hospital food is just terrible. Also, make sure that you pray. And if you have to cuss, sometimes that's okay too. Don't hit the staff members. Make sure you just punch the pillow, bite on the pillow, scream, go into the bathroom. Maybe you need to smoke something. Just vent and just relax. And that's pretty much some of the tips I have for staying in the hospital.
Well, I was not expecting any of that, but thank you very, thank you very much. All of those tips will come in handy for someone.
Right.
It may not be me, but somebody.
You won't believe what I've seen in the hospital. Trust me. I've seen
everything. Right. Like, yes, like Rhonda just typed, always prepare for some fun.